An excuse many use, including Disney themselves every time they make a garbage product that everyone hates, is that Star Wars fans can never be pleased. This is a specific argument used to reinforce the idea that nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. Before I continue, I want to point out how ill-suited Disney is to run Star Wars by saying that. Even if that's true, it's a massive sign of disrespect towards all fans in general by saying that. Well, aside from that, this statement is simply not true. Speaking for myself personally, I am pleased by a lot of Star Wars content that is different from each other. Sequel fans are the kind who might say that I'm just some sequel-hating prequel purist, because they only watch my negative reviews towards the sequels, and they never seem to do an extensive search on my channel for my videos that don't directly relate to the sequels, the prequels, or even the originals. Like, guys, have you seen my review on Darth Plagueis, or Tales of the Jedi, or Dark Forces, or any of that old school Star Wars content from the expanded universe? I love plenty of Star Wars content. I recall the Faceless Bastard said that I'm just some fanatic for the prequels who doesn't like anything else Star Wars, and said bastard did a severe lack of research into my channel. This is what annoys me about people who hate my guts. They always come across like they've seen my takes on the sequels and prequels and nothing else. They couldn't debate with me on my opinion on Dark Empire, for example, to save their lives. I'd be surprised if any of them even know I have a review on that storyline. Sure, I bring up the sequels in that video, but that's not everything in that review. With that being said, I wanted to talk about the larger fan base. Now, there are those who will only accept the original trilogy and nothing else, but those aren't fans. They're fanatics, wanting the original trilogy all over again, and they can't get anything new with Star Wars. Hence why they accepted The Force Awakens with open arms. But for people who generally consume Star Wars content, they can be pleased. The problem is that Disney keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again, and they never learn. Their mistakes include breaking canon to make a story at the detriment of the wider story, forcing politically pandering woke BS that does not belong and only serves to alienate fans, writing something of quality since their storytelling skills are piss poor, and they keep on getting those who don't know their Star Wars to write Star Wars stories. You at one point hired an idiot who forgot Natalie Portman was in Star Wars, and he wasn't fired immediately despite that being a massive red flag. It seems his movie isn't materializing, but that isn't the point. Disney makes many lethal mistakes that cost Star Wars entries dearly, and these mistakes can be applied to a lot of the stuff they do. Whenever they get something right, it's because they avoid these mistakes. Fallen Order, for example, it doesn't break canon, it's not politically pandering or woke, and has diversity without it being a nuisance, and it was made by Respawn Entertainment, who made a simple, straight-to-the-point Jedi adventure game. I've said Fallen Order was overrated, but that doesn't mean I didn't like it. It's actually a story. It's actually a video game, published under EA no less. This is what I'm talking about. Fallen Order is pretty much one of the few things all fans could get behind for a reason. And it's the reason people actually care about its sequel, Jedi Survivor, and is one of the only things I'm optimistic about when it comes to modern Star Wars. With other Star Wars games, I am skeptical. I don't care about Star Wars Eclipse. The Knights of the Old Republic remake is an extremely cherry-picked game, and based on leaks, they're making the game politically correct and woke, just because Disney wanted it to be. The open world Star Wars game is probably just going to be like any other Ubisoft open world game. Those leaks about it being like No Man's Sky are unreliable. They constantly make the same mistakes that they never ever learn from. So to debunk this narrative, no, Star Wars fans can be pleased. It's Disney that can't please fans though, due to their constant repeated mistakes, such as what I just listed. I was so sick of this excuse. It's extremely lazy and a sign of defeat. Maybe you should just try harder and avoid making the mistakes I listed in this video. Because most of the time, I at the very least can tolerate a story when Disney doesn't get carried away with their fatal flaws. Blaming the fans is only going to increase hatred for Disney Star Wars. That in itself is another big mistake Disney needs to stop doing. Believe me, the problems with modern Star Wars content apply a lot to them. Kenobi is a random example, breaks continuity in Star Wars lore, with the writers admitting as such, so those trying extra hard to argue the opposite are utterly delusional and don't live on what we call planet Earth. It's also politically pandering. Reva was a tag-along character hired for force representation purposes, it's poorly written on top of all the continuity errors, and so on and so forth. I've made a lot of parallel criticisms to a lot of Disney Star Wars products. Even if Star Wars stories don't have all three problems, they have at least one, but the problems coincide with each other. Bottom line, the normal Star Wars fan can be pleased. The real problem is Disney's own repeated mistakes and tendency to blame fans afterwards. The improper behavior towards fans cannot be understated too. Pablo Escobar Hidalgo was known to bully Expanded Universe fans on Twitter, and he was never held accountable. Rian Johnson's behavior, furthermore, was completely unprofessional and only further adds to the backlash, as well as commonly expressing his ignorance on Star Wars, proving how bad of a choice he was. Neither were fired and blacklisted specifically for their actions towards fans. This is another reason I'm against the Rian Johnson trilogy. He doesn't deserve it. Stuff like that is proof that Disney both don't care about fans, nor do they listen or take the advice of the fans. Disney have refused to budge with giving Expanded Universe fans a continuation of the Expanded Universe. What they do is constantly downplay and dismiss fans who want the EU to continue. It's not something that would be hard to do. For example, Drew Karpyshyn has said that he's willing to write the Darth Xana novel. All he needs is a thumbs up from Disney, which he has not gotten. Expanded Universe fans wouldn't care if there was a less frequent rate of novels and comics being released compared to Disney canon. They've always been quality over quantity at the end of the day, but Disney refuses to relent. They always have to perpetuate false narratives about the EU, which is disrespecting the fans of that stuff. Even if the Expanded Universe is 90% garbage, people consume it. As I hear, the one time they relented and released a Legends comic, it outsold any issue of a Disney Marvel Star Wars comic ever published under Disney canon. I suspect Disney knows that if they continued the Legends continuity, it would quickly overshadow their canon in sales. Then it would prove them wrong. I'm frustrated as it is that there is a lack of quality audiobooks for Star Wars Legends novels. On Audible, Disney are pretty much only doing the mainstream stuff, like the Thrawn trilogy, Darth Bane, Darth Plagueis, etc. Never any of the more obscure novels. Believe me, every week or so, I look out for new announcements in releases in the Essential Legends collection, and their turnout is slow. I keep wondering to myself when they'll do Splinter of the Mind's Eye, if ever. Point is, I despise Disney taking their sweet time with Legends novel re-releases. With that being said, that's the crappy argument debunked. I'm JJ Plagiarisms, and until next time, what are stories but mystery boxes?
Under the mountain, a golden fountain. Were you praying that the Loris struck?